I was a 32-year-old software engineer with what I thought was the perfect life. My wife Tara and I had been married for 8 years, living in our dream home in Seattle. We had it all planned out. Then I started losing weight without trying. Fatigue hit me like a truck. The diagnosis came back as stage 3 lymphoma. Tara seemed supportive at first, holding my hand as the doctor explained everything. But something in her eyes seemed different. I could not place it then, but I would soon discover the devastating truth. Before I continue with how my world completely shattered, let me know where you are watching from in the comments. If this story resonates with you, consider subscribing to hear more life-changing moments that shaped who I am today. Life before cancer was pretty sweet. At 32, I had climbed the corporate ladder at a major tech company in Seattle, allowing Tara and I to purchase our dream home overlooking Puget Sound. We traveled internationally twice a year, had a solid group of friends, and were discussing starting a family within the next year or two. Everything seemed perfect on paper. The symptoms crept in gradually. First came the unexplained weight loss. I dropped 15 pounds over 2 months despite eating normally. I joked about finally getting that six-pack without trying, but deep down, I felt something was wrong. Then the night sweats started waking up with my pillow and sheets completely soaked. The fatigue was the final straw. As someone who used to run 5 miles before work, I suddenly could barely make it up a flight of stairs without feeling winded. Tara initially suggested it might be stress or a vitamin deficiency. After 3 weeks of deteriorating health, I finally made an appointment with my doctor. He ordered blood tests followed by more specialized tests, and finally a biopsy of a swollen lymph node in my neck that I had barely noticed. The day we received the diagnosis remains crystal clear in my memory. Tara sat beside me in the sterile examination room, her hand resting on mine. The doctor entered with a somber expression that immediately sent my heart racing. "I am afraid the results confirm stage 3 lymphoma," he said, his voice gentle but direct. Tara gasped and squeezed my hand. In that moment, I was more concerned about comforting her than processing my own diagnosis. The doctor continued explaining the type of cancer, the staging, and the generally good prognosis with proper treatment. I heard maybe half of what he said, my mind stuck on a loop of disbelief. "You will need to start chemotherapy as soon as possible," the doctor explained. 6 cycles, each lasting 3 weeks. "We will monitor your progress after the 3rd cycle and adjust if necessary." Tara asked questions about side effects, treatment schedules, and success rates. She appeared to be the perfect supportive spouse, taking notes and requesting resources. Looking back, I wonder if she was already calculating how long she would need to maintain the facade. The drive home was quiet. I stared out the window, watching Seattle pass by in a blur. Tara promised everything would be okay, that we would fight this together. I believed her. Why would not I? She was my wife, my partner, my best friend. The changes in her behavior were subtle at first. She started staying at the office, later claiming big projects and demanding clients. Her phone became an extension of her hand, but she would angle it away whenever I entered the room. When I asked about her day, her answers grew vague and short. The physical affection that had always been natural between us dwindled until a kiss goodbye in the morning felt like a formal obligation rather than an expression of love. My best friend Jake noticed the shift during a visit before my first chemo session. "Something seems off with Tara," he said as we sat on my back deck watching the sunset over the sound. "She is just stressed about my diagnosis." I defended, though the doubt had already taken root in my mind. "Focus on getting better, man. That is all that matters right now," Jake advised. But I could tell he was concerned about more than just my health. My first chemotherapy session was scheduled for a Monday morning. Tara had promised to take the day off to drive me there and back. Sunday night, she suddenly remembered a critical client meeting that she could not possibly reschedule. "I will make it up to you," she promised, not quite meeting my eyes. "I will be there for the next one for sure." Jake stepped in to take me instead. As I sat in the treatment chair watching clear poison drip into my veins, I scrolled through social media to distract myself. A mutual friend had tagged Tara in a photo at an upscale restaurant downtown, time stamped during the critical client meeting. She was smiling broadly, no trace of worry for her cancer-stricken husband evident on her face. The caption mentioned a department lunch, which could have been innocent, except for the man seated beside her, his arm casually draped across the back of her chair. James Peterson, her co-worker whom she had mentioned with increasing frequency over the past few months. That night, while emptying the pockets of her coat while doing laundry, I found a receipt from Canlis, one of the most expensive restaurants in Seattle. The timestamp showed 7:30 p.m., hours after any legitimate business dinner would have concluded. 2 entrees, 2 desserts, and a $300 bottle of wine. My stomach dropped. The date was from a night she had claimed to be working late. The effects of chemotherapy hit me hard. Within 2 weeks, my thick, dark hair began falling out in clumps. I decided to shave it all off, rather than watch it disappear gradually. Tara was on a business trip when I made that decision. Jake came over with clippers and a 6-pack of non-alcoholic beer, turning what could have been a depressing moment into something almost ceremonial. The nausea was relentless. Even with anti-nausea medication, I spent hours curled beside the toilet. My body, once strong and athletic, became a shadow of itself. I dropped another 20 pounds. My skin turned a sickly gray and dark circles permanently resided under my eyes. Through it all, Tara maintained her distance both physically and emotionally. 3 weeks into my treatment, my lawyer called to discuss updating my will given the uncertainty of my prognosis. Although the doctors were optimistic, they had been honest about the severity of my condition. With assets including our house, substantial savings, stock options, and life insurance, there was a lot to consider. Until this point, everything would have gone to Tara automatically. It is standard procedure to review estate planning during major life changes, the lawyer explained. We should schedule a meeting to discuss your wishes. I mentioned this to Tara over dinner, one of the rare evenings she was home before 8. A flash of interest crossed her face, quickly replaced by practiced concern. Let us hope we will not need any of that, she said, reaching across the table to squeeze my hand. It was the first time she had voluntarily touched me in weeks. Despite feeling like death warmed over after my 3rd chemo session, I decided to plan a special dinner at home. I spent hours preparing Tara's favorite meal, pushing through waves of nausea and fatigue. I set the table with our wedding china, lit candles, and even put on a button-down shirt instead of my usual treatment uniform of sweatpants and loose t-shirts. Tara texted that she would be late. 1 hour turned into 2. By the time she walked through the door at 10:30, the candles had burned low, the food was cold, and I had fallen asleep on the couch waiting for her. "Oh, Willie, you did not have to do all this," she exclaimed, her voice slightly slurred. She smelled of expensive cologne that was definitely not mine, and her lipstick was smudged at the corner. "Where were you?" I asked, too exhausted to even raise my voice. "Client drinks ran late. You know how it is during the Henderson project launch." She kissed my forehead and headed upstairs, not bothering to eat the meal I had prepared. The next day, my laptop crashed while I was working remotely. With a deadline looming and Tara at the office, I reluctantly used her personal laptop that she had left on the kitchen counter. As I opened the browser to access my cloud documents, her email automatically loaded. I was not looking for evidence. I had been fighting against my suspicions, making excuses for her behavior, blaming my illness for making me paranoid. But there it was, an email thread between her and James, partially hidden among dozens of legitimate work communications. With shaking hands, I clicked on one with the subject line, "Last night." The intimate details of their 6-month affair spilled across the screen. Meetups at hotels, weekend trips disguised as business travel, plans for their future. The betrayal cut deep, but what destroyed me were the messages discussing my illness. How long did the doctor say James had asked? Even with treatment, who knows, Tara replied. But the life insurance policy is substantial, and Washington is a community property state. Everything we have built, is half mine already. They mocked my symptoms with Tara complaining about having to play nurse when she was home. They discussed how they would spend my money after I was gone, planning trips to places Tara and I had always dreamed of visiting together. I dug deeper, finding screenshots of their text conversations that were even more explicit and cruel. In one, James asked if she felt guilty. Sometimes she had written, but he was emotionally checked out even before the cancer. Always working, building his perfect career and perfect home. I was just part of the perfect picture. James, you actually see me. I sat, staring at the screen until the letters blurred. 8 years of marriage. The vows we had taken. In sickness and in health. All meaningless. When Tara came home that evening, I was sitting at the kitchen table, her laptop open in front of me. Her face registered shock, quickly replaced by defensive anger. You went through my private emails. How dare you? How dare I? You have been having an affair while I am fighting for my life, and you are concerned about privacy. My voice was deadly, calm, surprising. Even myself. She denied everything at first. Claimed the messages were taken out of context. When I recited her own words back to her, the strategy changed. You have no idea how hard this has been for me, she cried. Watching you get sick, the stress of it all. James was just someone to talk to at first. And the part where you discussed spending my life insurance money, was that just talk too? Her face hardened. Then the mask finally dropping completely. You have not been a real husband to me for years, Willie. Always at the office, always on your laptop. The cancer just made it worse. Am I supposed to put my life on hold indefinitely? You are supposed to honor your vows, I said quietly. Or at least have the decency to leave before starting a new relationship, not wait around hoping to cash in when I die. Tara packed a bag, claiming she needed space. We both knew she was going straight to James. As the front door closed behind her, the silence in our home felt both devastating and strangely peaceful. I called Jake, my voice breaking as I finally let the emotions flow. I will be there in 20 minutes, he said, without hesitation. That night, as Jake slept in our guest room in case I needed anything, I lay awake contemplating how quickly life can change. 3 months ago, I was healthy and believed I was happily married. Now I was fighting cancer with no idea if I would survive. And my marriage had been revealed as a facade. Strangely, discovering Tara's betrayal gave me a new determination. If I could not trust her to honor our vows, I would need to protect myself. First thing the next morning, I called a divorce attorney recommended by my colleague, who had gone through a messy separation the year before. We scheduled an appointment for later that week. My next call was to my bank, where I discovered something that sent rage coursing through my weakened body. Tara had transferred nearly $50,000 from our joint savings account to a personal account in her name only. The transaction had been completed just 2 days after my diagnosis. This happens more often than you would think, my divorce attorney said during our consultation. Unfortunately, illness can bring out the worst in people, especially when money is involved. During my 4th chemo session, I experienced a severe reaction. My blood pressure plummeted, and I lost consciousness briefly. When I came to, nurses were rushing around me, adjusting medications and monitoring equipment. One held my hand and spoke soothingly, while another called my emergency contact. Tara never appeared. It was Jake who arrived 20 minutes later, frantic with worry. The hospital kept me overnight for observation. The small private room felt less lonely than my own home had become. The nurses checked on me regularly, showing more genuine care than my wife had in months. One in particular, Angela, sat with me during her break, listening as I vaguely explained my situation. Cancer has a way of revealing people's true characters, she said wisely. Sometimes the ones you expect to stay leave in strength comes from unexpected places. When I was discharged the following day, Jake and his wife Amy insisted I stay in their guest room during my recovery. Our house is closer to the treatment center anyway, Amy reasoned, though we all knew the real reason. They did not want me alone in the home I had shared with Tara, surrounded by memories and betrayal. From Jake and Amy's guest room, I began rebuilding my life, even as my body struggled against the cancer. I scheduled appointments with my financial advisor and estate attorney. With their help, I developed a comprehensive plan to protect myself and redefine my future. First, I removed Tara as an authorized user on all credit cards and changed every password to my financial accounts. I documented the money she had already taken, which would be addressed in the divorce settlement. With my lawyer's guidance, I filed for divorce, citing adultery with the evidence from her emails and the bank transfers providing irrefutable proof. The most satisfying step was rewriting my will. Instead of leaving everything to Tara, I created a trust that would fund lymphoma research and provide scholarships for young cancer patients. I included small bequests to Jake and Amy and a few other friends who had shown their true colors during my illness. Tara would receive nothing beyond what the divorce settlement legally required. An unexpected ally appeared when Tara's sister Shannon called me. We had always been close, and she was devastated by her sister's behavior. "There is something else you should know," Shannon said hesitantly. "This is not the first time she has done this. In college, she dated a wealthy guy from her economics class until his father lost everything in bad investments. She moved on within a week." Shannon also revealed that Tara had been telling family members that my prognosis was much worse than it actually was, apparently laying groundwork for sympathy when I passed away. I was past the point of being hurt by these revelations. Instead, they strengthened my resolve to stand up for myself, despite my weakened physical state. With Shannon's blessing, I added her statements to the evidence for the divorce proceedings. In a moment of perhaps unwise courage, I decided to confront James directly. I found his office building address and waited outside one afternoon, after a surprisingly good day health-wise. When he emerged, his expression upon seeing me was almost comical. The confident homewrecker suddenly looked like a cornered animal. "Willie, I can explain." He started glancing around nervously. "No need," I replied calmly. "I just wanted to see the man who thought so little of marriage vows and basic human decency. I hope you realize she will do the same to you eventually." I walked away without waiting for his response, feeling lighter than I had in weeks. It was not about revenge. It was about reclaiming my dignity. Tara's reaction when she discovered she had been removed from my will and financial accounts was explosive. She appeared at Jake and Amy's house, unannounced, screaming about legal rights and betrayal-rich accusations coming from her. "I deserve half of everything," she yelled, mascara streaking down her face. "I have been with you for 8 years. And cheating for at least 6 months while I fight cancer." I replied, my calm demeanor making her even more furious. "The $50,000 you already took will be deducted from your settlement. My lawyer has all the documentation of your affair and financial misconduct." Her tactics shifted instantly from rage to manipulative tears. "I made a mistake, Willie. I was scared of losing you and reacted badly. We can work through this." Looking at her, I saw clearly for the first time. Not the woman I had loved, but someone who had viewed me as a meal ticket, whose loyalty vanished at the first sign of trouble. Despite my physical weakness, I felt emotionally stronger than I had in months. "The divorce papers have been filed. Your things will be packed and available for pickup next week. Please communicate through my attorney from now on." As she realized her tears were not working, her true colors showed completely. "You will regret this. Nobody will want you now. Look at yourself. You are half dead already." I closed the door on her hateful words, turning back to the friends who had become my true family. They looked horrified, but I actually smiled. Now I know for sure I made the right decision. The divorce proceedings stretched on for 6 months, running parallel to my cancer treatment. Each chemotherapy session left me weaker physically, but watching Tara's schemes unravel in court somehow strengthened my spirit. Her claims of deserving half our assets, despite the documented affair, fell flat, especially when the judge saw evidence of her emptying accounts immediately after my diagnosis. The final settlement was far from what she had hoped. She received a portion of our marital assets as required by state law, but her financial misconduct and the brevity of our marriage relative to when we acquired most assets worked in my favor. The house was sold with proceeds split according to the court's ruling. My retirement account stock options from before the marriage and life insurance policy remained solely mine. As the legal battles wound down, something unexpected happened. My oncologist called with results from my latest scan following my 6th and final chemotherapy treatment. "The cancer is in remission, Willie," he said, his voice warm with genuine happiness. "There are no detectable cancer cells at this time. We will continue monitoring you closely, but this is the outcome we hoped for." I sat in my new apartment, a modern one-bedroom, overlooking a small park, and wept, not just for the medical victory but for the complete liberation I felt. I had beaten cancer. I had freed myself from a toxic marriage. For the first time in nearly a year, I could breathe fully. The emotional freedom proved as healing as the medical treatments. Without Tara's constant gaslighting and betrayal, I could focus entirely on rebuilding my strength. I joined a cancer survivor support group, where I met people who truly understood the journey. Their stories of resilience inspired me daily. Among the medical professionals I encountered during treatment, one stood out. Sarah was an oncology nurse who had shown extraordinary kindness during my lowest moments. After completing treatment, I ran into her at a cancer research fundraiser. Our conversation flowed easily based on shared experiences, but extending far beyond my illness. She saw me as a whole person, not just a patient or a wallet. Our friendship developed slowly. Coffee after survivor group meetings, texts checking on my recovery, long conversations about books, music, and life philosophy. There was no rush, no agenda. For the first time, I understood what an authentic connection felt like, built on mutual respect rather than superficial attraction or financial security. The journey transformed me in ways beyond the physical. I learned to recognize the signs of genuine care versus performative concern. My priorities shifted dramatically. While I still enjoyed my career, I reduced my hours to volunteer with newly diagnosed cancer patients, offering the support I wished I had received initially. The research foundation established through my revised will became active, even while I lived funding promising studies in lymphoma treatment. Knowing my resources would help others facing similar battles gave purpose to the pain I had endured. My relationship with money changed fundamentally. Where once I had focused on accumulation and status, I now valued experiences and connections. The beautiful house and expensive vacations had not brought happiness or loyalty. True wealth, I discovered, was having people who stood by you at your worst moments, without expecting anything in return. Jake and Amy remained my closest friends, though our relationship evolved as I regained independence. They had seen me at my absolute lowest, yet never made me feel like a burden. That kind of friendship, I realized, was rarer and more precious than romantic love. 1 year after my diagnosis, I stood on the summit of Mount Rainier, having trained for months to regain the strength to make the climb. As I looked over the vast landscape, I reflected on the parallel journeys of healing my body and my life. Both had required patience, professional help, and a willingness to cut away what was toxic to save the whole. Sometimes life hands you 2 battles at once, not to break you, but to show you just how strong you truly are. The scars from betrayal healed alongside the scars from my surgery, both reminders that survival takes many forms. Trust your instincts even when they tell you something you do not want to hear. And remember that rebuilding after devastation leaves room for something more authentic than what stood before. If you have ever had to start over, whether because of health challenges, betrayal, or any other life earthquake, share your story in the comments below. The strength found in our most difficult moments deserves to be celebrated. Like this video, if my journey resonated with you, and subscribe to hear more stories of resilience and transformation. Thank you for listening, and remember, sometimes losing what you thought you wanted opens the door to what you truly need.